Hello, faithful, and welcome to the 49ers Plus podcast. I'm Al Moriello, and this is your source for the most subjective 49ers discussion. Only smart takes, never any clickbait, and it is a Victory Tuesday, or I'm sorry, Monday. Victory Monday. Niners thrilling win over the Bears. We are going to discuss it all from Brock's sterling game. Caleb Williams had a pretty good game himself. The Niners defense really getting the only stop that they absolutely had to get all game. People finally giving Brock Purdy flowers online for whatever it's worth. We're going to tear into those a little bit. Offense, defense, injuries, and setting up, at least in the NFC, the game of the year, Niners, Seahawks for the number one seed Saturday night in Santa Clara. Let's jump right into it. And what a fantastic game, right? High scoring. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that want low scoring games and think games that are high scoring or over 80 points in total points or thereabouts, or right at 80, excuse me, isn't too exciting. Where's the defense? Where's the defense? Well, offense is what moves the needle. That's why kickoffs, if they go into the end zone and are kneeled, go out to the 35, which I still think is ridiculously egregious. A punt goes into the end zone, it still comes out to the 20. A kickoff that goes into the end zone at most should come out to the 30. At absolute most, and I can even argue the 25. I really, really hate that rule. Didn't necessarily come back to hurt the Niners or the Bears. There weren't really many big returns, but from an offensive standpoint, fantasy football, what more could you want if you had players in the fight? And I had McCaffrey, I had DeAndre Swift, and Pinheiro, which has given me, I think, a 7.5 point lead going into Monday night. I'm going up tonight against Bijan Robinson, but I have Stafford and Puka Nacua. Hopefully I can hold on for the victory. But a lot of offense and a lot of excitement that we're going to get into the social media reaction. Brock Purdy, people are giving him praise now, which is a year and a half too late, in my opinion. But a lot of copium happening for Bears fans where it's, even though we didn't win, no one wants to play us. And Caleb Williams is a top 10 quarterback. No, he is not. Somewhere probably between like 13 and 22. And that's okay. It's just year two. Let's not go nuts. Nobody should be drawing any sort of ridiculous proclamations coming out of last night's game. Purdy had a great game. Caleb Williams had a pretty good game. They were both going up against garbage defenses or borderline garbage defenses that cannot stop the pass worth a damn. And the Bears equally could not stop the run or the Niners pass. So Brock Purdy, other than the first play, which we'll get into. But I mentioned copium. A lot of Bears fans trying to find some sort of solace in the loss. And if the Niners had lost that game, my reaction probably would have been somewhat the same. Like, hey, Trent Williams gets hurt the first play. There's no Kittle. There's obviously still no Warner and Bosa and Ayuk and Michael Williams. So I want to first congratulate the Bears staff, organization, ownership, fans, janitorial, everybody, to say, way to keep the game close when the Niners were without 5 all-pro players. And I listed them before. I'll list them again. George Kittle, Trent Williams, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Brandon Ayuk, who they haven't had all year, but he has been an all-pro in the past, and rookie Michael Williams. So congratulations, Bears fans and everybody involved, for keeping it close and making it a nail-biter at the end, with the Niners having all of those absences. Yeah, I know you guys were missing Rome Odunze. That does not nearly equate to the 5 all-pros plus others. Renardo Green was hurt. Niners didn't have their starting cornerback, opposite Demo. Obviously, Trent Williams gets hurt on the first play on the pick 6, which we're going to get into. The Bears are a scary team. If the Bears played any sort of defense, they'd be a very scary team. They played some defense against Cleveland. Was it last week? They beat them like 24-3, 27-3, something like that. And the Niners struggled with Cleveland. Just goes to show week to week league matchups matter. Jim Schwartz is Kyle Shanahan's kryptonite, not so much for Ben Johnson. But the Bears were never going to get the number 1 seed. And I know you guys saw that graphic a lot. If the Bears win, then they need to beat the Lions, and the Niners need to beat the Seahawks. If the Niners had lost the game last night, they would have sat starters against Seattle and used week 18 as a bye week. Get healthy for wherever they were going to be in the wild card round, and they still very well might be playing in the wild card rounds, either against the Eagles or the Bears if they lose to Seattle. The Bears are an up-and-coming team. The defense is worse than what you see statistically. They turned it over. They got one. They won the turnover battle, still lost the game. And they are, in fact, the first team in NFL history to score 35 or more points, get a defensive turnover, have no turnovers, and not be sacked at all and still lose the game. So if you want to say it was a historic loss for the Bears, it was. If that's the first time it's ever happened in history, it was a historic loss for the Bears. It was a track meet. I was going to say someone had to lose, but obviously they could have tied. And it felt like the team with the ball last was going to win. Fortunately for us Niner fans, that did not happen. And even though the Niners are missing all these all-pros, Brock decided to make it interesting and spot the Bears 7 points right off the bat. There was only one 3-pointer all game, and that was the Bears getting to 38. So Brock spots the Bears 7 points, first pass of the game, slant to Juwan Johnson. Cornerback Jalen Johnson is off, jumps the slant, drives on it, bats it in the air, returned by one of the linebackers for a touchdown. I was aggravated. I think I spouted something to the effect of, "Are you fucking kidding me?" 1, because it was a pick. 2, because it was a pick six. 3, because it was the first play of the game. Did Brock settle down? He absolutely settled down. And I didn't look at Twitter after that pick. I can only imagine how much Grant Cohn was probably jerking himself off into a frenzy, and Jesse Naylor was, throwing shade at Brock and being his own prickhead self, but had to make a note online that anytime Brock or the Niners did good, let me write that. I'm a fake fan, but I will bash the quarterback and the organization any chance I get. Because he's a schmuck, but good for him that he monetizes his bad fucking takes. Down to the last second sports. Shitty takes down to the last second. Good for you. But Brock settled down to the tune of 5 total touchdowns, 3 passing, 2 rushing, 300 yards prior to the sack, and 72.7% completion percentage. If Caleb had come back and won that game, even let's say DeAndre Swift on the last play of the game was a handoff and he ran it in, the national media will be lining up, grabbing those little triangular pieces of paper at a deli counter and have a nice long line to suck his dick. Because it's Caleb Williams, because he's the number 1 pick in the draft 2 years ago. Do you think if the Bears and Caleb Williams won, there would be the same, less, or more adoration for the quarterback, the winning quarterback, than what Brock is getting? Of course, there would be more. It actually came to a point where, and Chris Collinsworth is an unabashed Patrick Mahomes fan, but when Brock made that crazy scramble to the left, run backwards, run forwards, pass to Juszczyk in the left-hand side of the end zone touchdown, Collinsworth, and he essentially stopped saying it, but did say, "Can you imagine if this is like Patrick Mahomes doing this?" And he didn't finish that with what I would be saying or what others would be saying if it was Mahomes or Josh Allen. There would be much more crazy fervor for that, which is just wild to me, because those are plays you expect a player like that to make more often than Brock. Why isn't it more celebrated when someone you don't expect to make a play like that makes a play like that? And my only answer is because people are conditioned to react a certain way when it's a superstar high-level player versus someone like Brock who is not thought of that way. And if anybody's pushing Brock into like the top 5 based on these past 2 games, slow the fuck down, right? To me, he is still ranked somewhere between 7 and 12 in the NFL. And people can have their discussions about those 6 quarterbacks. Like you got your top 6, then you got your next 6. However you want to rank them, I'm not here to change your mind. The Niner fans probably have them closer to, 6, 6, 7, or 8 than maybe I do. And it's not like I have them that far away by any means, but let's not be prisoners of the moment. Let's not be prisoners of the moment. Let's take a step back from the Brock stuff for a second and just go to that head-to-head comparison from last week's podcast when I said it is clear, obvious, undoubtedly that Brock Purdy is the better quarterback than Caleb Williams. And he still is. Not because he totaled 5 touchdowns and Caleb totaled 2. Not because Brock Purdy completed 72.7% of his passes and Caleb Williams completed only 59.5%, which is above his 57.8% average. You knew the Niners were going to make Caleb Williams look better than he is because the pass defense has been so bad all year. Plus 0 pass rush. 0, 0, 0, 0. 0 pass rush. Even with that, he couldn't crack 60%. But people are going to get enamored by the wow throws. The first bomb for a touchdown, and then the one to Colston Loveland on the offsides that Shanahan and I guess defensive players thought was going to be blown dead. And at that point, he threw a nice ball to Loveland in the end zone for a touchdown. I mean, he had Tatum Bethune on him, who runs like a 4.7, 4.75. So that wasn't really, and is probably like 4 inches taller than him. Wasn't really much of a matchup. Nice throw, but how many? There was only a handful of them. Layups did he miss? How many layups would have kept the drive moving or put the Bears in a position for a touchdown versus a field goal on that drive where they made it 38? And I don't know if Manangai would have scored on that flare pass that he kind of airmailed anyway. But yeah, great quarterbacks can make the splash plays, but great quarterbacks or very, very good quarterbacks don't miss the layups. And it's concerning how many layups that Caleb Williams missed. Brock could have completely folded after that first interception, right? Other quarterback, Sam Darnold, might have completely folded if he threw a pick 6 on the first play of the game. Came back and played like an absolute demon, like his Cole's cash was on fire. But, so comparisons, Caleb, about 20 more passing yards. Brock with the touchdowns, had a huge real-life football game, huge fantasy game. Had him on my bench, starting Stafford tonight. Didn't want to put too many eggs in the Niner basket, although I guess I would have the same 2 skill position players for the Rams, Puka and Stafford, versus 2 skill position players, McCaffrey and Brock for the Niners. 3 passing touchdowns went to Tonjes, filled in so well for George Kittle. We're going to talk about that more in a bit. Juwan Jennings and Kyle Juszczyk on that crazy scramble play. Brock, as much as Collinsworth and others tout Caleb Williams' mobility and speed, Brock outrushed Caleb 28-18 yardage-wise, had 2 touchdowns. Caleb had none. And if we want to make any proclamation about greatness or savvy or cool under pressure, granted, situationally, these occurred at 2 very different times in the game. But Brock's crazy scramble to the left, scramble backwards, scramble up between 2 defenders, and throw one to Juice in the end zone as he got the defenders to commit more to Brock's right. Brock made the big scramble play, and Caleb Williams did not, right? And Caleb Williams had time to find a receiver earlier on. I mean, if he had let it go to DeAndre Swift a little bit sooner, he might have had a one-on-one opportunity in the end zone. And that was from like the 4-yard line, right? And I know Saleh wound up dropping 8, rushing 3, wound up getting pressure up the middle, and then Yetur Gross-Matos down the sideline wasn't buying any of the pump fakes. He just went right for his torso. It's what I teach kids in flag football, even though it's not flag. Tackle mentality. You zero right in on the torso. Wherever those hips are going, that's where the flags are. Same in basketball. If you're defending, don't look at the hand, don't look at the head, don't look at the ball or feet. Right at the torso. That's their center of mass. Wherever that's going to go, the ball and the body is going to go as well. So great job by Yetur, just like a heat-sinking missile, going right after it. Caleb threw it short. You can't really blame him, on that. He was kind of like falling away, and the Niners were dropping extra players into coverage. But there was a couple plays before that. Was it on that drive where he was rolling right and threw it short to a receiver that was crossing left to right? That could have been a huge game, potentially a touchdown. Might have been the drive before, I forget. But for those of us that watched the game, we saw the misses Caleb had. Brock did not have those misses. He had a costly pick, which was not a wrong read. It was not a bad pass. Again, you tip your cap to the defender. Jalen Johnson made a great play on that, and the Bears are very opportunistic. If that was a Niner defensive play, the ball would hit the ground. There would have been a defender there, would have been dropped, or no defender anywhere in the vicinity falling harmlessly to the grass. Big time play by Brock. Different points situationally in the game. Caleb Williams could not match. Now, social media is abuzz with giving Brock Purdy some flowers, but I guess a player of Brock's physical stature and physical liabilities, but limitations, needs to have or create 10 touchdowns in 2 games for anybody to speak positively about him. Do you understand how crazy that is? First off, the game against the Colts on Monday night, and I would have lost money on this. I would have assumed it would have happened at some point before. Brock throwing 5 touchdowns against the Colts was the first time it happened, 5 or more touchdowns, since Steve Young threw 6 against the Chargers in Super Bowl 29, January of 1995. Almost 31 years ago. Would have thought at some point, I know Alex Smith wasn't throwing, forget 5 touchdowns, wasn't really throwing 4 and really struggled throwing 3, and they've had an army of average, but below average quarterbacks in between. But, obviously Jimmy didn't, Kaepernick didn't, but that was the first time. And what does Brock do? He backs that up with another 5 touchdown, 1 interception performance. So at least it was symmetrical to the Colt game. 3 passing, 2 rushing. And now here comes the Twitter twats. And I have one twat in particular, and it wasn't a backhanded compliment. It's just hyperbole for engagement. And this person is not, I don't think, a Brock Purdy hater, but maybe not necessarily a Brock Purdy fan. And essentially the statement was, this is what a franchise quarterback looks like. No. That is what a really great game looks like. And any quarterback can have a really great game. But are we expecting, and I know this isn't the expectation, but let's break those words. Either matter or they don't. I'm a writer by trade, granted, for pharmaceutical products, but either words matter or they don't. Are we expecting numerous 5 touchdown performances a game? Does a franchise quarterback have to score 5 touchdowns in 8 games? And then maybe 2 or 3 the rest of the way? Does a franchise quarterback have to score 5 touchdowns in every game? That'll be 105 touchdowns over a 17-game season. I know this twat didn't mean that, but it's okay that Brock, who's a very, very good quarterback, I'm not going to call him elite, but he's a very good fucking quarterback. It's on a hot streak these last 2 games. It doesn't hurt that he played 2 bad defenses, but other teams have played these defenses and have not lit them up in the real world and in fantasy football the way Brock Purdy has. Newsflash, Brock Purdy was a franchise quarterback before the Bears game. Newsflash, Brock Purdy was a franchise quarterback before the Colts game. Brock Purdy was a franchise quarterback before this year. Brock Purdy you could argue was a franchise quarterback before even last year started, considering what he did his rookie year, leading to the NFC Championship game, and then having an MVP finalist season on his way to the Super Bowl in year 2. That growth. And then obviously everything fell apart and went to shit last year. He was injured a bunch this year, came back from the toe injury part 2, and has played more or less lights out outside of the Panther game, and it didn't cost them. Brock's been a franchise quarterback. I'm not going to say this whole time, not since he's stepped foot into the league, but you want to argue, has he been a franchise quarterback since the end of the 2023 season? You could make a pretty good argument for that. You don't need to see him account for 5 touchdowns back-to-back to say, oh, he's a franchise quarterback now. A franchise QB is more than the stats. Eli Manning was a franchise quarterback. And his win-loss record is what? Even? He would have been a franchise quarterback even if he had only won 1 Super Bowl for the Giants. I know he won 2. Big drives, big throws, helmet catch to Manningham down the left sideline, beating the Patriots. He would have been considered a franchise quarterback if he had won no Super Bowls. The Super Bowls and the MVPs now have him in the Hall of Fame discussion, which I don't think he is personally. But you don't have to be you could be a franchise quarterback and not be a stat demon. You can be a franchise quarterback and not throw 50 touchdowns like Mahomes did in, was it 2018, 2019, 2020, whatever it was. You could be a franchise quarterback and throw in the mid-20s because it's on the field. It's how you elevate your team. It's how you lead. It's how you're being the face of the franchise. You are the man, the guy on that team, the franchise quarterback. People want to confuse that term just with ridiculously elite productivity. No. An elite quarterback and a franchise quarterback are 2 different things. Everybody that's elite is a franchise quarterback, but not everyone who is a franchise quarterback is elite. And that's okay. I may be an N of 1 who thinks that way. That's okay. And if people want to argue and say Brock's elite, they can. I don't think he's there yet, and he may never be there. And again, that's okay. I don't take it personally if people say, oh, Brock's not elite. Good. Have your opinion. That's okay. And people may look at me as like, oh, you're a shitty 49er fan. You have a podcast twice a week and you do all this research and you don't know shit and you pick against the Niners. You don't think Brock's elite. I don't. I think he's somewhere between like 7 and 12. Still pretty damn good. If you're a top 10, top 11 quarterback on the planet, in your profession, you're top 10 or 11. Who's listening now? Or anybody that's top 10 or 11 in the world in their profession. And people are going to shit on that. It's like if you're not top 3 or top 5, you're nothing. I hate that mentality. And I'm not one of those participation trophies for everybody, but you can realize that there are shades of gray in life. It doesn't have to be great or shit. We all live in the in-between, right? A lot of aspects of all our lives are in the in-between. Not the upside down. That's Stranger Things. That's something else. Not going to get into it. Maybe discuss it after New Year's Eve with the finale. But Brock has been a franchise quarterback nearly the whole time, y'all. And it shouldn't have to take 2 games, 10 touchdowns on national television for people to realize it. Because he's had some really good postseason runs, 22 and 23. And now that he's, if you want to say, shook the rust off, coming back the second time, that Panther game being in the past, we were all hoping that first pick wasn't going to compound into another and another and another. And yeah, did he get bailed out on an illegal, contact where he threw another pick in the end zone? Horseshoes and hand grenades, right? Almost doesn't count. Almost doesn't count in any sport other than horseshoes. And I guess maybe bocce ball. But let's go over the yards. Total yardage, 496 for the Niners, 440 for the Bears. Niners were 7 of 10 on third down conversions. Bears 6 of 12, so at 50%. Got to get better. Niners 5 of 5 in the red zone perfect. Bears 1 of 3, and the Niners won the time of possession battle by 7 minutes. They had a huge advantage in the first half, and the Bears chipped away in the second half. Brock went for 303, like I mentioned, with the 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing. The Niners running game poked its head out again throughout the entire game. And yeah, this was a Bears run defense going into the game, giving up about 135 a game. And again, maybe I'm pessimistic or cautious, or we just haven't seen the running game enough to start believing that this game going up against a bad run defense in Chicago was a great opportunity for the Niners to have a good to great running effort. And if they had gotten to 135 or 150, I would have been like, holy cow, fantastic. 34 rushes, magic number over 30, 200 yards on the button, and 3 touchdowns. McCaffrey himself, 23 for 140. It is still too soon to say the running game is back. Short term, good game against the Colts. Better game, which is a top 7-8 run defense. Better game against the Bears, which is a bottom 10 run defense. We'll see where they go against Seattle, which is a top, 5-7 run defense. But what we do know, at least short-term wise, is in the short term, the running game is getting hot. And if you believe in things like that carrying over to the Seahawks game, then that is boding well for the 49ers. For me, once everyone takes the cleats off and the shoulder pads and helmets and the game is over, the reset button is hit for the next game. And Seattle's going to present an entirely different problem than what the Bears did. More so a defensive problem, and we'll see what Sam Darnold, the Niners, are going to get. We'll talk more about that on Thursday or Friday. But the offense, we all watched the game, did whatever it wanted. 2 punts all game? And I know they hadn't punted in the month of December. 2 punts. And that last punt, when it was 35 all at about maybe the 40, 42 of Chicago, it was a 4th and 7. I was wondering if Kyle was going to decide to go for it. Morstead with a good punt, pinned him at the 11, and the Bears went right down the field, but had to settle for 3. So it's not just that last play that the Niners came up big, because if the Bears had scored a touchdown, then the Niners would have had to match. Who knows if they go for 2? Well, not if they score with whatever it was, 2:11 left in the game. But the Niners would have had to match. Who knows the play calling or the defense of Dennis Allen, if anything would have been called differently. But the last 2 defensive drives of the game, field goal, stopped them on downs. Would have liked to see a little bit more of that throughout to not make it so nail-biting and exciting at the end. But the defense, the last 2 drives of the 4th, came up when they needed to. Going back to something I said in the previous podcast, if you listened, one of my keys to the game was feed Pearsall, if he's playing, and Jake Tonjes. And they did just that. Ricky goes 5 for 85 in his return. Jake Tonjes, 70 for 60 in a touchdown. I said I would have been happy with a half of a Kittle type of game, which would have been like 4 for 40. He had a Kittle light game, 7 for 60 in a touchdown. He was a factor, and it's so great that they have a viable number 2 tight end option. But Kyle, please, against Seattle and whatever type of playoff run the Niners make, don't bury him when Kittle is in. Have 2 tight ends on the field. Get Farrell out. Put Tonjes in. He's not as good of a blocker, but he's a better receiving threat. And you have another viable or good receiving threat in the pattern. Do not make Jake Tonjes go away. Please, 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 please. I don't think he's the solution to winning a Super Bowl, but another option, another weapon, especially if Kittle's not going to be 100%, I don't think, on Saturday night. He'll be closer to it, but keep Tonjes in the flow of the game. Keep that very good Seattle Seahawks defense guessing. And Ricky Pearsall, and I'm sure we were all holding our breath when he went down on what is like maybe second reception, was slow to get up. You saw him wincing on the sideline, came back for another, 2 or 3 receptions for 85 yards. He was big. Hopefully there are no setbacks. Hopefully there's no waking up today on Monday morning and he's sore or anything, that now he's going to progress, get even closer to 100%. Won't be 100% probably the entire rest of the season and playoffs, however far San Francisco goes. But two players that I thought needed to play a key role, and they did. The Niners O-line, impressive. Only one sack on Purdy, and Purdy was going to get killed. Felt it, ducked, just took the sack. Only 4 total pressures all game. The Bears pass rush last night was worse than the Niners pass rush. 2 pressures by Anthony Pleasants filling in for Trent Williams, 1 by Spencer Burford, and 1 by Dominic Pooney. Kept Brock clean. And Brock helped that with scrambles, breaking the pocket, rolling out, giving himself time and space to throw. But the O-line protected Brock overall better than the Bears O-line, which is a much better O-line than the Niners, protected Caleb Williams. Now, the defense, we know the pass defense got torched. Absolutely torched. They got bailed out by a handful of throws based on Caleb Williams' inaccuracy. Gave up deep passes, gave up that, a 3rd and 14. Sometime was it early to mid 4th quarter where they should have gotten off the field. Dialed up some pressures at times, which helped them out. But the pass defense, again, pass rush and pass defense should be tied together. They probably are in both not being that good. Now, Renardo Green, Darrell Luter, unless I missed something, we didn't hear his name called much for being a liability outside of Demo. But Upton Stout goes out with a concussion. Hopefully he's okay. Chase Lucas, who I'm a big fan of, did not have one of his better showings. Did enough collectively to survive, but it was the run defense. 22 rushes for $110 and 2 touchdowns. That's 5 yards a carry. 5 yards a tote is nothing to laugh at. DeAndre Swift had both rushing touchdowns. And the game plan early on felt more throw than what the Bears generally do as the number 2 running team in the league. But held under their average of 152 a game. Basically held, 25% less, 25% less. And the pass rush, although didn't get really near Caleb, other than the last play, 16 pressures, 3 by Yatur. Welcome back. It was much needed. Now, next time, everybody just get to the actual quarterback. And again, the game plan by Saleh and Korachek might have been rush contain. Don't get too far upfield. Don't let Caleb Williams, and he's not Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen, but he can beat you with his legs. He could be good for 30, 40 a game. Was held to 18 yards on 6 scrambles. Defense did enough, but it's not going to be nearly enough in the playoffs against other teams. Getting the number 1 seed is going to be huge. Playing in Santa Clara, and if they can get that, we'll see who they're playing in the first round. Otherwise, they're going to be going to either the Eagles or the Bears, depending on what the Bears and Eagles do last week of the season. Now, quickly, let's touch upon injuries. Trent Williams left the first play, hamstring, did not return. Upton Stout, concussion, did not return. Keon White, defensive tackle, D-end, groin. I think he got hurt sometime in the 4th quarter, did not return. Hopefully, 2 of those 3, if not all 3, will be okay for the Seahawk game. Trent Williams, by his own admission, either hasn't had many or any hamstring injuries in the past. Given the short week, I would imagine he's not going to be able to go. So it's going to be Austin Pleasants, and they could probably call up someone from the practice squad at tackle as another backup tackle, but you do have Burford, who's rotating in or either just straight up won the left guard spot. They may have to shuffle the offensive line a little bit, but I'm sure they need to carry 8 on the game day roster. So I'm sure someone is going to get called up if Trent can't go. But Upton Stout, going to be big. And Keon White, again, for that non-pass rush, but again, someone else like Yatur who could play inside and outside. Hopefully that groin injury is something minor. And it sets up what we all know, what we were all hoping for 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, has come to pass. Niners and Seahawks each have won 6 straight. The last loss for each team was the Los Angeles Rams. And both teams will be heading into Santa Clara Saturday night with the number 1 seed on the line. 13-3 Seattle at 12-4 San Francisco. The Niners open up as a slight 1.5 point favorite. Now, a lot of fans are upset or feel slighted that it's not the Sunday night game. Guys, looking at it from a realistic and logical standpoint, the Steelers Raven game makes sense for Sunday night because that's going to be the bigger ratings get game. Bigger rivalry. I don't care. Yeah, Niners, Seahawks, big rivalry. I get it. The Steelers and Ravens rivalry has been big for like 15 years. Niners, Seattle was big for a couple of years in the early 2010s. Went dormant for a while because the Niners sucked for so long, and has been a pretty good rivalry again for maybe the past 3 years. You can maybe say 4 or 5, but let's say 3 or 4. It makes sense in every way to put the Ravens and Steelers on Sunday night. And oh, by the way, it's a win and in scenario. All the Niners and Seahawks are playing for are the number 1 seed, all in air quotes. It's very important to both of these teams, but the loser of the Ravens-Steeler game is out. Much more dramatic, more on the line. If nothing else, we get to see this game a day sooner, and it's preceded by Panthers at Buccaneers. If you're a Niner fan, you're rooting, even though Carolina has beat the Rams earlier this season, I think Tampa Bay has a better chance in Tampa of beating the Rams, who will, again, more than likely be the 5 seed, than the Rams going to Carolina again and losing. And the Rams are the only team that the Niners need knocked out of the playoffs, even if they get the number 1 seed. And for Niner fans, like, oh, well, yeah, the Rams beat San Fran, but we beat them in Los Angeles with a backup quarterback. Like, yeah, but that was in overtime by 3, and it took a fumble at the goal line to really help keep the Niners in the league, and a 4th down stop on a run. The Rams came to Santa Clara and obliterated San Francisco. The Rams are the team we as Niner fans need knocked out of the playoffs. If the Niners get the number 1 seed, they could see the Rams in the first round. If the Rams are the 5 seed, if the 2 seed and the 3 seed beat the 6 and 7, then the Rams are coming to San Francisco in the division round. So we are rooting for getting the 1 seed, obviously. The Packers to win their game. The Seahawks to win their game. And if the Rams win their game too, that's great. But, go Bucks or Panthers, whoever it's going to be. The Rams are the team that I will admit I am scared of because the Niners can't get pressure. Stafford is having too good of a year. The defense under Shula is optimistic, and the offense under McVay is elite. The Rams have more talent than San Francisco does, and they will be a problem, if not a significant favorite in Santa Clara should it come to pass. But that is getting ahead of ourselves. Today is a Monday to celebrate. Ridiculously good game. I had to medicate myself to get to sleep last night. So big. Lot to talk about between now and the Seahawks game, and hopefully the injured players start to get healthy. Maybe Sam Darnold starts to see some ghosts early on in the week. And it's just bearing down. It's all coming to this for a season that many people thought for lost, for a season that I thought that a healthy Niner team would go 11-6. And they are 12-4 and went through an injury-plagued season and might be going into this game with additional injuries if Trent Williams can't play or if Kittle can't go. Upton Stout, Keon White. Far from a healthy team. Missing 5 all-pro players yesterday. 5 out of 22. That's 20%, almost 20% of your starters out. And still found a way. I don't know if Kyle Shanahan's going to win Coach of the Year. I know he's a really strong candidate, but so is Mike McDonald and Liam Cohen and Mike Vrabel and Ben Johnson. There's a lot. Even Sean McVay. There's a lot of coaches. Sean Payton. A lot of coaches that can make a legitimate stake to that claim. But I do think if the Niners can beat Seattle and get that number 1 seed, it will be really hard to deny what Shanahan has done, given the hand that he was dealt. Although you have teams like the Patriots who, how much was expected out of the Patriots? And they might be the number 1 seed. The Broncos might be the number 1 seed. So don't feel slighted. Don't start pissing and moaning, and we're not going to know Coach of the Year for several weeks anyway. But boy, oh boy, and I said it last podcast, this is a house money, feels like a house money, happy to be here situation. Couldn't have asked for anything more given how many injuries this team has sustained. But the flip side of it is they're here now. No matter how they finish this year, it guarantees nothing for next year. You're here now. Take advantage of it. You have Seattle in your backyard. You have the playoffs and the Super Bowl potentially in your backyard. Capitalize. It would be so weirdly fitting if an almost against all odds Niners season ends up in a Super Bowl win, whereas in 19 and 23, they were more poised to have that moniker going into the playoffs because of how kind of dominant they were the entire season. A lot left to be decided, but got 5.5 days, 6 days until the next game. Enjoy it, faithful. Huge game coming against the Seahawks. Whatever you guys are doing between now and then, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to make us part of your viewing or listening routine, and stay happy, super happy, healthy, and safe. Whatever you're doing New Year's Eve, be safe, please. Obviously, a lot of crazies on the road wherever you are. And if you are going to check out Stranger Things, I hope you and we all enjoy it. And from there, rolling on to the biggest game of the year until the next one. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. All. We'll talk soon. Take care.